And our KCTV5's Leslie Aguilar joins us live with details. She is in Evergy headquarters right now. Leslie, what's the latest? That's kind of a dire message we heard from SPP.
Indeed, these are unprecedented times here at Evergy. They've been working around the clock to manage this ever-changing situation. As you said, there are unprecedented power interruptions happening, but luckily right now that has ceased for the moment. I am here with Katie McDonald, a spokesperson with Evergy, here to explain what's been going on. And Katie, first of all, can you give us an explanation of why we had to do those power interruptions and what is going on right now?
Sure, absolutely. So the reason why we had to do some temporary power interruptions earlier this afternoon is because our region is facing unprecedented levels of demand on our system, which means that we've had power supply concerns. At Evergy, we have enough power to meet our customer needs. However, when you get into a situation like this, the Regional Power Authority, which in our case is called the Southwest Power Pool, has to ensure that there's enough power for all of the utilities. And so in this case, earlier today, the Southwest Power Pool asked utilities in our region to begin brief power interruptions for our customers in order to hopefully reduce the supply concerns, get back to normal, and avoid widespread blackouts that would occur if we can't get the situation under control.
Can you explain how you guys make that decision of which areas get those interruptions? And is it you guys who make that decision?
Sure, yeah, we do. So at Evergy, what happens is the Southwest Power Pool asks us to reduce a certain amount of power for certain amounts of time. And so what we do is it's very complex. We try to avoid circuits that have critical customers like hospitals, like nursing homes. We can't always do that, but we try to do that. We also, in these times, are trying to avoid locations that have the COVID vaccine and locations where vaccinations are taking place. And so we start there, and we try to look across our entire system to make sure that we have these limited power interruptions that are kind of widespread in nature. So today we had 60,000 customers who were impacted, all for roughly 30 minutes, which in our terms is good, because we were looking at potentially longer power outages if we couldn't get the electricity demand down.
And for those people who could be losing power, which, I mean, we don't know in the coming days if you guys might have to do this again or for how long, can you speak to the communications challenges? It's not like you can call everybody in those areas and give them a warning that heads up, your power specifically is about to go out for however long.
Absolutely. So typically when we're going to do construction work, for example, that's a planned outage and we give customers advance notice. This situation is very touch and go. And when we are asked to begin reducing power, we have to do that immediately. And so we're not able, unfortunately, the way the system works, utilities can't give customers advance notice in this situation. And so that's one of the reasons why we try to make it as brief of an interruption as possible for our customers, because we can't give them advance notice.
Okay, so some viewers obviously have been upset about the power outages. Can you explain, this was forecasted. Obviously, we knew that it was going to be bitter cold, and you guys did do some preparations for this, buying extra power and whatnot. Can you explain how that works and why still it's hard to have enough power for the entire grid?
Yeah, so the reason we're here today is because as a region, this is unprecedented as far as the number of days of extreme cold and for as widespread as the cold is. And so it's a much bigger than a Kansas and a Missouri problem. It's an issue across our entire region. And so to your point, while we do have enough energy for our customers, in order to keep the grid in balance from a regional perspective, they've asked us to be part of the reductions to make sure that the overall system doesn't create lasting blackouts that would be a much worse situation for our customers. But we bought extra power. We've had employees working 24/7 shifts, doing everything we could to reduce our demand for electricity. But we're still at this point today where luckily we've gone from the worst level of emergency in our region. We went back a level. So now we're back at a level 2, which is at a place where in a level 2, we're asking our customers to continue to conserve electricity, to take the steps that they can to reduce the strain on the system. and that's likely to last through tomorrow. But at any time, we could go back to a level 3 if, as a region, the power supply becomes more limited again. And so it's really a touch and go situation. We would encourage customers also to make sure they're prepared for losing power for 30 to 60 minutes. Make sure you're charging your cell phone, make sure you're charging any of your electronics, make sure that you are prepared with a storm kit should you lose power for a brief time.
Yes. And for school, I know a lot of school districts are going to be making the decision right now whether to be in person or to be virtual. I know that you guys have been in contact with the school districts, so what are you telling them? What is better from a power standpoint, to have the entire building in person or all of those different homes, virtual, sucking up electricity?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've been, as you said, we've been working with school districts directly. And what we've said is we're in a critical situation here for about through the end of tomorrow. And so if as long as school districts understand that from a school perspective, we may be in a position where we're doing limited power interruptions for 30 to 60 minutes. And if the schools are okay with that risk, then they can continue operating. But the other option would be to be virtual and to not do that. From a power perspective, we're not giving specific instruction to the schools.
Okay, thank you. Another thing that I found interesting that you told me earlier, so a lot of people, when we hear power grid, we might not know exactly what that grid is. So the grid is, the power source for the entire region. There's different types of ways for us to get power. So coal, wind energy. Explain some of the ways right now during this extreme cold that we can't get those sources of energy.
Yeah, so one of the things that we benefit here in the Midwest is that unlike some parts of the country, we have a real balance from an energy generation perspective. We create power through wind, through coal, through natural gas, nuclear, solar. And so what that does is when there are certain types of generation that are not performing well in extreme conditions, we can lean on our other generation sources as well as buy additional power. So really the only type of energy source that is not impacted so far by this event is nuclear. But we've had issues with our renewable generation. We've had issues getting natural gas supply in because of capacity concerns, as well as coal issues with freezing supply. And so what we've had to do is really work as a generation portfolio and make sure that we have enough generation to meet the needs of customers by making sure we bring in additional capacity when we knew that this weather would be where we are today.
Okay, so last question. What can customers do to conserve energy? I know that you guys have said maybe turning the thermostat down a couple degrees, making sure that we're not doing laundry or washing dishes, especially during those peak hours. Explain that. How can people help and conserve energy?
Absolutely. So first of all, I would say because we're out of the extreme level 3, that is partially a testament to our customers doing everything that they can to conserve electricity. That is great news. So continuing to unplug appliances when they're not in use, not running the washer, dryer, dishwasher, major appliances until later at night after 10 o'clock p.m. when we're past our energy peak usage period, as well as, to your point, turning down the thermostat several degrees so you could get between that kind of 65 and 68 degree perspective.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to add for anything for our customers, all of our viewers to know as we continue in this extreme cold?
Yeah, I think the only other thing I would say is that what would be really important, customers may be wondering, okay, so we're not interrupting power now, but how do we know if that's going to change? The best way to get updates is through our Facebook page. We're going to be continuing to provide more of the up-to-the-minute updates on that page so folks will know if we move back into a position where we're interrupting customers again.
Okay, thank you so much. And that's it from Katie McDonald. I'm going to pass it to you guys back in the studio, Brad.
Yeah, great interview. A lot of information there. We appreciate that, Leslie.